The previews are in for Pokemon Legends ZA, and we've got some good news to report overall with the combat and just the flow of what they're doing with this game. There's been a lot of discussion about it taking place in just one town or one city and not going outside of that, no wildlife and other things, the graphics, there's been all sorts of stuff with this game, but now we actually have hands-on previews from people that were at the Pokemon Worlds Championship event, in addition to media and press getting their hands on the game. Now, there isn't a ton of new direct feed footage. We've just got information from the playthroughs. There's also some previews out there. I'll have some links if you guys want to check that out. But overall, things are looking good for Pokemon Legends ZA, and I'm kind of shocked at one aspect of it, especially with the action RPG battle system. So we're going to talk about that and a bunch of other news, but let's go ahead and jump right into that Pokemon Legends ZA information. We've got new details on Mega Evolutions and of course the first detail on the city map as well. So here's a bit of the roundup of information, then I'll go over my own personal thoughts. So when your Pokemon deals damage, the opposing Pokemon will drop Mega Energy. The trainer has to pick up the orbs of Mega Energy to fill the Mega Gauge. Once the Mega Gauge is full, you can Mega Evolve your Pokemon. Press the right joystick to Mega Evolve. You can Mega Evolve multiple times per battle as long as you collect enough Mega Power. The Mega Gauge will decrease slowly. However, you can keep dealing damage to the opposing Pokemon and picking up energy orbs to refill your Gauge, so it keeps your Mega going. Now, also, on the topic of Rogue Mega Evolved Pokemon, Nintendo Everything rounded up this information. They will look to attack you and not attack your Pokemon, so evading is important. It's possible to die, and apparently the game is more difficult than previous entries, so I've got a lot that I want to say about that part right there. Now, aside from the above, we have a couple other tidbits. First, unlike Pokemon Legends Arceus, there are held items in ZA. However, there are cooldowns for each item. One way in which ZA and Arceus are similar is that once again, there are no abilities, natures are still present, and a shop still sells the mitts. Also, there is a look at the map, which I'll show you guys right here. And from what I understand and from what people said, it's really dense with a lot of different areas to go through and paths. And also you have the rooftop battles as well. So it's kind of dynamic in that sense. Plus there's some stuff that they're not showing us at this point, obviously for surprises when we actually play the game ourselves. So there's a couple different things that I want to say on this, how this one kind of surprised me and it's getting better for sure. So for me, having it to where you have these rogue Pokemon that attack you, which they did talk about just a bit, they attack you, not the Pokemon, that actually makes this more dynamic when it comes to the battle system, because you have to run around and you have to position yourself as a trainer. So it's kind of like a dual different type of thing. Not only are you giving your trainer commands, but you're also making sure that you get out of the way of attacks. So that's pretty cool, and I think that that's going to help make the game feel a bit different. So the battles just aren't all the same thing of you just giving commands to your Pokemon and you just saying, okay, I'm just going to run around just to kind of run around. And that's kind of like what Pokemon Legends Arceus was. You can move around during the turn-based battles kind of, but it didn't really matter outside of like when you fought like some of those like wild Pokemon that were like coming after you, whatever, like the possessed ones or something like that. So yeah, you have to be careful for that one. So they're kind of doing it the same way here, but it is a bit different now at this point considering the type of battle system that you do have. So I do like that they kind of brought that over from Pokemon Legends Arceus, but evolved it in a way towards like a full-on true action RPG at this point. Now, them saying that the game is harder than previous entries, let's wait and see on that one, but I'm really hoping that it is. One of the knocks on Pokemon is that sometimes it's a little bit too easy to get through the main campaign. Now, in normal competitive Pokemon play, when you're talking about the normal mainline games, you have the online to really get the competitive nature and get the difficulty. Trust me, you go online, people will smack you up, down, and all around. So that's where I always got the difficulty from, was from playing against people online. Well, this game, there is no competitive against other players online at at this point. So since there's none of that, you're going to have to get the difficulty from somewhere. Pokemon Legends Arceus did a good job with some of the difficulty in places, but of course you can just out level it. So I'm waiting to see what they do with the difficulty here. I'm waiting to see what they have for like post-game difficulty, different types of, I would say, like stacked ladders that you can go through that get increasingly harder. I'm really hoping that they do kind of layer on some more of the difficulty there, because you have all of these different tools with your Pokemon, because you have the whole Mega Evolving, and there's all sorts of stuff that's going to let you get powerful Pokemon. So I do think that having it more difficult will definitely be a good thing overall. Now with the battle system, some people aren't sold on this. I've seen online when it comes to showing off some of the different footage that's been out there, but to me at least, I definitely think that this is going to be a great battle system, and here's the reason why I think that. One, it reminds me of Xenoblade Chronicles 2, like the cooldowns and some of the stuff that you can do there, even kind of how it looks with the UI, that's awesome. That game has a great battle system, but also too, at this point, I mean, if you're looking at what they've shown off, it looks crisp, looks fun. The game runs apparently 60 frames per second. That's a huge thing at this point, getting that at 60, and it's looking better, much better than what we saw with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, according to the people that are playing the game, and just overall, just like the look of the game runs better, looks better, and that is huge because we had the debacle 3 years ago of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and we need to make sure that that never happens again. I think that the Pokemon Company, Game Freak, Nintendo, that can never happen again, where you have a premium game like that launching and it runs the way that it does in a premier franchise like Pokemon. I get that the graphics still aren't necessarily great or up to what the system can do at this point, but I think that more so than anything, making sure that the game runs good at least, and at least have a decent resolution so it's not so blurry and your eyes aren't getting cut by the blur or anything like that, right? At least have it to where it's like that, and I think that's the good thing about this game, and we'll see what happens for Generation 10. So they are definitely working on that, and that's going to be a massive release for the Pokemon Company, Game Freak, and Nintendo next year. But for this year, Pokemon Legends ZA, there's a lot riding on this game. I think that it's a very important game when it comes to Nintendo Switch 2 sales, and I think that Nintendo, they realize that, because what are they doing? Bundling it with a Nintendo Switch 2 that seems to be taking the place of the Mario Kart World Bundle by the end of this year. So that's going to be available on October 16th. So I think that there's a lot riding on this game, at least for Nintendo's holiday overall. And of course, the Pokemon Company, they're looking to make a lot too. This could probably be one of the better selling games of the year because it's coming out on Nintendo Switch 1 and it's coming out on Nintendo Switch 2. You're going to get a lot of people who want to upgrade from Switch 1 to Switch 2, but you're also going to get a lot of people who maybe can't afford to do that, can only afford the game, so it's going to sell there as well. So I expect big sales across Nintendo Switch 1 and Nintendo Switch 2, considering the install base of Switch 1, considering the momentum of the Nintendo Switch 2, and finally getting a lot of the people that probably have Switch 1 and are waiting for a Pokemon experience to get into the Nintendo Switch 2. So definitely good signs all around, but we'll have to wait for the final reviews, and we're going to have to wait for the final game to kind of give us our idea of what's going on here. But I do expect that this game, Pokemon Legends ZA, could be the best reviewed Pokemon game in the Switch 1 era and beyond. Now, maybe that's not saying a ton because the best reviewed game is only an 83 with Pokemon Legends Arceus, but I do think that it's a step above obviously what we got with Pokemon Sword and Shield, in addition to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, which was the worst reviewed game pretty much in the series since we've got reviews on Pokemon games. So having a clear, I would say, going up is a good thing, and I think that the resolution and the graphics of the Switch 2 version are going to help, because Nintendo's probably only going to send out review copies for the Switch 2 version of the game. I mean, obviously you can play the Switch 1 version if you want to, but the Switch 2 version is going to be the one that Nintendo says, okay, no, look at this one here, and the automatic docking that Pokemon gets for resolution and for performance, that won't quite be as, I would say, profound at this point. You're still probably going to get docked some for the graphics and everything, but it's not going to be as bad as we got with Pokemon Sword and Shield, Scarlet and Violet, and to a degree, Pokemon Legends Arceus. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how that translates out too. So I would expect a mid-80s or so, maybe even a little bit better. But once again, let's wait and see. We get some more footage, more direct feed stuff from Nintendo themselves, and then of course we'll be able to evaluate the game once it comes out and if you pick it up. So very excited for Pokemon Legends ZA. I think it's going to be a very good game. I'm looking forward to it. So what do you guys think about these new details about Pokemon Legends ZA? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, next up, we're going to talk about another cool RPG coming out very soon here, and that's Trails in the Sky First Chapter. We've got a brand new official trailer that is just dropped, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. It's a promotional trailer for this game, and it looks really cool. We also have the Japanese voice actors that I'm going to slap on screen right here for everybody, so that's definitely good. So if you're looking to play the game in Japanese with English subtitles, you can see who's actually voicing the characters, which is always a pretty big thing for these type of games. So yeah, check out this trailer right here, guys. It's looking pretty good overall. I like the graphical style and look of the game. It just is one of those things, to me at least, when you look at the Legend of Heroes and you look at the amount of games and the complexity of the games and how many games there are, I've always wanted to really get into this series and really get into what it's doing. But the problem when it comes down to it is that there's so many games. So they finally went back and said, okay, if you really want to get into this series, this is the one to get into. And yeah, we're going to fully remake it, and it looks incredible. There's new battle sequences, there's new styles, there's new combat, there's new content, there's all sorts of stuff with this, and it looks fantastic. This is the best looking game that they've ever made when it comes to Falcom. So for me at least, we got new information that the game takes around 80 hours to beat. So they did not skimp out on remake content. Sometimes you see these remakes, they might skimp out on content or leave things out because they don't want to remake it. Not here with Trails in the Sky first chapter. 80 hours to play through the game. If you want to 100% it, you might take double the time. So if you're looking for value for your money when it comes down to it, we've got it right here. And of course, it's a worldwide full release when it comes to this game, which is awesome. We've always had the issue with the Legend of Heroes games where it comes out here in the West way later, like 6 months or later, or up to a year later than the Japanese release, and they're already moving on to the next game by the time that we get the first game. So that's not happening here as well. It's September 19th. Worldwide. Pre-orders are available on Nintendo Switch 1, PlayStation 5, and Steam. And I say this every single time I talk about this game, and I'm really hoping that Falcom does something with this, because I need to be able to play this on the Nintendo Switch 2, but I also need the 60 FPS that the PS5 version has. So I'm really hoping the Switch 1 version, I know that version's not going to be at 60 FPS, probably based off of what we've seen. So I need them to make sure that the frame rate is unlocked, or there's a performance mode, so you can easily take that up when you play the Switch 1 version on your Switch 2. It goes up to 60 FPS, like we've seen Atelier Yumiya do, for example, where the Switch 1 version still doesn't look that great, but at least you can get 60 FPS because they have a performance toggle on there. So I'm going to need them, Falcom, to do the same thing at this point, to where we can get this game running at 60 FPS, because the graphics for the Switch 1 version, that's fine. It looks great. The Switch 1 version is actually the lead version of this game. So on PS5, you're just getting the same look of the game on Switch 1, but just better resolution and better performance. So it's not like the PS5 version, at least if you're playing the Nintendo Switch 1 version on the Switch 2, it's not like, oh my gosh, it's going to look so much blurrier or anything like that. The game was built off of the Nintendo Switch 1, then ported to other platforms. So for me, at least, I'm going to need them to make sure that they do that. So I'm hoping that is the case with the Nintendo Switch 1 version, that it is uncapped, unlocked frame rate, so we can easily get that at 60 FPS on the Nintendo Switch 2, or at least higher FPS on there, because the game looks like a really cool hybrid battle system with, of course, turn-based, but then also action elements as well. Of course, you want that faster loading time that the Nintendo Switch 2 offers, and that play anywhere that you want when it comes to dock TV and also portable play. So with 160 hours plus of content, 80 hours on a single playthrough, having that anywhere that you want and being able to get time in more places, that's going to be key for me to actually beat this game in a decent amount of time. It took me so long to beat SMT5 Vengeance on the PS5 because I was stuck to just only playing on the TV. If I had it portable mode, I probably could have beat it faster and could have got more game time in at certain places. So I'm really hoping that they get that done. But even if they don't, I'll just play it on Nintendo Switch 1, on Nintendo Switch 2, and just deal with it. So I'm looking forward to playing the game. I think it's going to be really good. So what do you guys think when it comes to Trails in the Sky first chapter and the new promotional trailer here, the Japanese one? Let me know in the comment section below. All right. Last up, we're going to talk about Drag and Drive, and what is the details surrounding this game? Who made it? Well, we finally have some details based off of the game being out and people playing through and seeing the credits. And this game was only made by around 20 developers, but it does include Hisashi Nogami of Animal Crossing and Splatoon fame, so that's pretty cool. But we do have a full lineup of developers who made this in the credits. And yeah, once again, he previously worked on Animal Crossing and Splatoon, and it's a smaller game. There's only about 20 people who made this game, and I think that some people didn't understand that. I did see some people saying they should have just made ARMS, for example, like ARMS 2, but ARMS was made by the Mario Kart team, and it had a big development team. There was way more than 20 people that made ARMS. ARMS is a full-length $60 or full-price game for the Switch 1 at the time. It had way more promotion, it had way more content, it had way more stuff going for it because they were looking to aim for a bigger release for the game. Dragon Drive is just not that. It's a smaller game. It costs only $20 compared to the $60, so ARMS was triple the amount. Obviously, much bigger development team. So it was just a small team that was probably playing around with the mouse mode to see maybe to make something experimental to have for the Nintendo Switch 2, and this is what they came up with. Now, listen, guys, I don't think that the game is, oh my gosh, incredible. I've played Dragon Drive, and I think that the controls take so much time to get used to. There's not a ton of content in the game. The online can be fun, but you can't group and pair up together beforehand and then go into matches. There's some quirks with this game that kind of make it like a 5 or 6 out of 10. So I don't disagree with the game's review scores overall and everything. The game is not incredible in terms of everything, and it could have been better in multiple different areas, but it's not like it's this massive game that somehow took the place of ARMS or took the place of something else. They were just experimenting. It's Nintendo EPD4 from what I understand. They make the experimental games. 1-2 Switch, everybody 1-2 Switch, stuff like that. Labo, they make those type of things. So this kind of just goes in line with what they make. And the interesting thing is that Nogami, he was the director on a few different Animal Crossing titles before going on to handle the Splatoon series as a producer. So Dragon Drive is actually the first game in over a decade that Nogami is credited for something outside of Splatoon or Animal Crossing. So very interesting in that sense. So what do you guys think overall when it comes to the topics here with the Pokemon Legends ZA, Trails in the Sky, Drag and Drive? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch 2 RPG content and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.